You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
All about winning. It's all about the WOW World Championship belt.
This is the most prestigious belt in wrestling.
Fabulous Lana Star has it. Everyone wants it.
Bring me the belt.
I want the belt.
And I could definitely see myself going for that title match.
I'm coming for that belt because it belongs to me.
If you think you're coming anywhere close to this, you've got another thing coming.
One by one, I will go through your entire roster until the only person that's left is Lana Star.
It is episode 6 of the WOW Review Series. Hello, folks. This is Mr. Green, and we are going into the episode titled Homecoming, which is the return of WOW original Jade. If you listened to the last review, or if you've watched the bonus content that WOW Superheroes has released the previous week, then you would have seen some of the build-up. I guess if you want to call it build-up, you would have seen some of the build-up of Jade's return in her bonus clips called Why She Fights. And if you haven't, of course, you can, all those things are available right now. Is available online on their website. I think that's where all the bonus content goes. And again, for those that aren't aware, the condensed versions of all these matches exist on their YouTube channel. And the full matches are on the WOW website, the WWE.com site. Don't know what the actual traffic is for that right now. In some cases, I think I brought it up on the previous review. I think WOW has developed a lot of lurkers. I think that there's a lot of people that have signed on to WOW and gone to their Twitter pages and YouTube channel and website, but the numbers don't seem to reflect it. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to go off into their statistics right now. We're going to talk about the latest released match. And we're also going to talk about some of the new bonus content, which I think they developed a rhythm for. It seems as if the bonus content now is just there to let you know what the next match is going to be. I mean, it's not like you don't know it. You can pretty much go down the line and read the content for the upcoming matches right up until the very end. They had the write-up for them underneath the little squares in there. So it's not like it's a secret, but the video bonus content that they have now is essentially there to serve as a build-up. So we'll start with the build-up. And the upcoming match based on this would be Jungel Grrrl versus Amber Gallows, who at the time was known as Amber O'Neal. I can't remember. I can only assume that this was shot before she married. I can't recall what the actual year that she did her I do's. I know for a little while there she was still referred to as Amber O'Neal just because that was how people knew her, but she's since then transitioned over to her husband's surname, Gallows. So in any case, whether she was married or not, she was Amber O'Neal in the video. And she was episode 11, and her opponent, Jungel Grrrl, was episode 12. Again, this is the bonus content, not the actual matches. They have 2 sets of releases that they do. So on the Road of Dreams, as they titled hers, Amber Gallows talks about her career, of course, in the past tense. And surprisingly enough, I will say, they gathered, or at least they got one match from her independent circuit. Now, there was a point in time I would have expected WoW to have never even acknowledged that there was independent wrestling out there. Uh, they've always kind of, for lack of a better term, done it the WWE way. At one point, back in the day when the WWE was like us and there's nobody else, we don't acknowledge the existence of another federation, promotion, or anything like that. Now, granted, WoW on Facebook in particular, and on all the social media actually, has more or less acknowledged that, yes, there are other wrestling companies and federations and things like that. The reason being is that, to kind of keep the drive of WoW alive, they would offer congratulations when they would do things outside of the WoW ring. So when Santana Garrett, for instance, won the NWA Women's World Championship, it was like, hey, our WoW girl won the title or something like that. So they acknowledge it. I just was a little bit surprised that they acknowledged it in their video format when they could have just as easily said, hey, we found Amber Gallows or Amber O'Neal and, she's the new WoW girl, or renamed her entirely. So I was a little shocked about that. If you go there, it's the clips are pretty brief. But it's Amber telling the viewers that she's been doing this for a long time. She has wrestled for, next to nothing and small arenas, and she's wrestled in front of large crowds and, decent money. And this is what she loves to do. It is a very true-to-life statement for Amber O'Neal. I was happy that they did it. I thought the segment was done pretty good. It was short. It was very short. It was less than a minute long. It's about 50 seconds. So it was it was very quick and insightful as to who Amber Gallows, I keep calling her Gallows because I'm used to, that's, her name, but O'Neal for the WoW people. But for that moment, they really got a true-to-life look at her, even though it was very brief. It was very true to life. I thought it was very well done. I would say, it was a B. Now, the A promo or the A video that I would give is Jungel Grrrl, Why She Fights, which is the next episode. Hers was easily longer. And since they own every match that Jungel Grrrl has ever participated in, they had a lot of stuff to draw on. When that video opens up, they make Jungel Grrrl look like she's a juggernaut. She's they're showing clips of her slamming people and suplexing people, showing her with her feats of strength and doing the Jungel Grrrl dive off the top rope. And it's really impressive to see them play Jungel Grrrl up like that. Now, what was a little bit surprising in the video is that she did not interview as Jungel Grrrl, basically. She interviewed as Erica Porter. She was not in character. It wasn't like she was sitting on a rock somewhere acting like she was off in the Amazon jungle or something like that. She was in her room, and she was in her normal clothes, and she was talking in a normal tone and, telling people about her life, her child, why she came back to WoW, what she's intended to do. It was very much along the lines of the interview, not to put myself over or anything like that, but it was very much along the lines of the interview that we had with Jungel Grrrl, or I should say Erica Porter, on our own channel. It was just one, two people talking. Of course, you don't hear the person that she's talking to in the video, but it's still her life and not the character's life that she was talking about. It was all Erica Porter. So that was a good thing, and I found that to be very entertaining, for lack of a better term. Or maybe entertaining isn't the word. I thought it was refreshing. Refreshing is probably a better way to put it. I thought it was a refreshing change of pace, that they didn't try to sell you on the idea that Jungel Grrrl was an actual person. Especially now, especially at this day and age. They gave you Erica Porter. Erica Porter gave you a glimpse into her real life using real footage. Of course, like I said earlier, they integrated the WoW footage of Jungel Grrrl in the previous matches. She had her child on camera. They showed her working out. I don't remember if they went into her professional background, which she is a physical trainer. She does her endomorphins, and I might be pronouncing it wrong, but she has that, and they showed her going through some of her training regimen. So it was nice. It was very nice. And just judging off of these two videos, if I was watching this and going to make a pick as to all right who's going to win this match, I would probably very easily go with Jungel Grrrl. She got the grander video out of the two. It was more in depth out of the two. It gave you more of a connection to who she is and what she's about out of the two. Not to say that the Amber Gallows video was wrong or bad or it wasn't insightful or anything like that. And in fact, I would go the opposite. I would say it was very insightful. It was just very short. And possibly because, A, they don't own any footage of Amber Gallows. I'm pretty sure that the footage that they did get, she provided, and probably was able to skate around the legality just because it was independent wrestling. And outside of that, they may not have been able to get a camera in her home, or maybe they did shoot stuff with her inside of that hotel room and didn't get the interview that they wanted. I don't know. It could have been any number of reasons. Maybe she didn't interview outside of character, or just didn't feel like doing it. I can attest that there are some people that when you try to interview for whatever reason, it's just really hard for them to get out of character. So not saying that that's the case. I'm just giving you stuff off the top of my head. But in any event, if you're going to look at next week's match, watch these videos first. It does give you a little bit of a setup as to who they are, and not what the match is about. As far as I know, it's just a toss out their match, but it gives you some idea of who they are, and it could be if you've never seen either one of them before, it could be good for you. Now we'll go into the actual match that they released this week. As I stated before, Homecoming, episode 6 of season 2. WoW, which features the original WoW girl, Jade, who was formerly of the Asian Invasion with her partner Lotus. Of course, Lotus has not returned to WoW, so I'm pretty sure she's gone on about her life. Jade, I probably should have written her real name down, but I know that she still does like a sideline sports reporting. So she's a busy girl. And in a really good shape. I want to, you got to put that out there. For a lot of these girls, they came back and they don't look very much different than when they left. Going back to Erica Porter just for a second, she looks amazing. I mean, she really does. And Jade looks almost exactly the same as she did 10, I guess it'd be almost 15 years ago now, but we'll say 12 since when they started taping. I think, 12. They started in about 2000, 2001, and they started taping again 2012, 2013. So we'll go in about that, just a little over a decade. But the match features her going up against a new WoW girl, Desdemeana, which is using essentially the Daughters of Darkness gimmick that they did 10 years ago, kind of compressed onto one girl opposed to a tag team. It has to be noted because this is part of the big story that they were telling during this match, is that this is her first match in 10 years, and she's never won. That was the real key here. Jade had never won. In that entire season of WoW, including the pay-per-view that they did, Jade and of course her partner, they never won a single match. They were just basically the name jobbers of the WoW universe, and they lost all the time. And she had her grandmother out there at ringside, or assumably. I don't know how legitimate it is, and never bothered to look it up or anything like that. So that kind of worked into the story that not only had she never won, but her grandmother had passed away. It was supposed to have been the 10th year anniversary of her death, and she's coming back, and she was given this note to never give up on your dreams and this and that. So we have her going against Desdemeana, who's the new WoW girl, and let's start with this disclaimer. Between the two of these girls, it's very likely that they probably have, and I'm going to include training in this also. Between the training and the pro wrestling matches that they have combined, they probably have less than 6 months experience between the two. So that being said, take that with a grain of salt, and let's go into the match. It's a typical WoW match. If you've heard these reviews before, then you know what I mean by that. They started off with that typical WoW arm crank. Twist your arm, I stomp on the mat a couple of times. You twist my arm, I stomp on the mat a couple of times, and vice versa. The match in total is about 7 minutes long, which is a little bit longer than what a average WoW match is and what has been. Surprisingly, Jade, who is coming in as more or less the babyface here, attacked Desdemeana before the bell rang. I thought that if anybody was going to do it, it would be Desdemeana. We haven't seen her before. We haven't established that she's a heel necessarily. I mean, she really didn't do anything that would constitute her being a bad guy beyond the fact that she has a name called Desdemeana. And because of that, we just assume that she's evil, or, she's got, face paint on and her hair is dyed black and stuff like that. She's wearing a black outfit. But outside of that, there's really nothing that says, hey, this lady is a bad person, or she's ruthless and I need to attack her before the bell rings. So I was a little bit surprised about that. I thought that they would still play Jade up to be the good girl, the babyface type of deal. It wasn't enough for me to just be like, oh, I'm done with the match, but it was just a little shocking. So that happens. I never heard the bell. If they rang it, then it was very muffled, or it was edited out of the video. But it's like she attacked her before the bell rang, and the bell never rang, and the match went underway. Which, now that I think about it, it would be interesting if they came back the following week like, oh, the match never started. I'm sorry, Jade, but you had this victory underneath you, spoiler alert, but you never, the match never took place, and we got it in officially. You never got it. That'd have been interesting. But anyway, the ref here is terrible. This is a terrible referee. There's at least 2 times in this match that Desdemeana grabs Jade by the throat. Now, this is the portion where she begins to, her actions in the ring begin to unveil her as heel. But she grabs her by the throat at least twice. He never even bothers to check to see if it's a choke or anything like that. He just pretty much just watches her walk around with her by the neck. And the commentators call it. It's like, oh, man, that could be a choke. He needs to get in there and look at that. And he never does. And outside of a pin and maybe, counting him in the corner, he doesn't really do all that much. He's just another body in the ring. Within the course of this, they do their normal exchange. Desdemeana gets to perform an impressive cradle suplex. Give credit where credit is due. Later on in the match, there was a portion where Jade does something what I considered pretty stupid for the character, not Jade personally. But for the character, this goes back to this is a typical WoW match. I've talked about this in almost every match that has a WoW original in it. They all do it. So she shoots Desdemeana off into the turnbuckle. Jade runs in and gets ready to come out with a monkey flip, and mounts herself in the corner, as we see competitors do with monkey flips. But before she decides to actually execute the move, as she's latched onto Desdemeana in the corner, she decides, for whatever reason, to start talking to the people in the front row. The same way that I've said about, several other people in these reviews, that they've just start randomly talking to people. They just, for what Frost did it, Loka did it, and Jay's doing it. They would just stop whatever they're doing, as if what the contest itself is not important enough for me to maintain concentration and focus on my opponent, just to start, holding conversation or chanting or, saying something to whomever it is in the crowd. And what happens is it gets turned into a spine buster. Desdemeana plants her right there in the corner for what I would, again, consider an act of stupidity. It's like you had that coming. Or at least the character had that coming. That just does not seem to do well for. I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they're trained to do it. It's like we got to waste a little bit of time for you to remember what to do next. And speaking of that happens a couple of times. Like when they get back up to the feet, it's like we gotta. I got to think about what I'm doing there. The match does not always seem to flow. It does not always seem natural between the two of the competitors, and in this one in particular, and a couple of others. But we'll move on because, like I said at the beginning, I gave you the disclaimer. They probably got 6 months of combined experience between the two. So, I mean, how upset could you be with them? Desdemeana, then this is the end portion of it. She going for a pair. She tries to get her in what is assumably a power driver originally, but Jade is able to reverse it into a pinning predicament. Desdemeana kicks out. She gets back up, kicks Jade in the belly, bends over and gets her into a pedigree. Bam, nails her. We all seen the pedigree, of course, not done with great execution, but it's done and we get the point. She flips over, gets the cover, goes for the pin. Jade is able to get her foot out and get it across the bottom rope and breaks the pinfall. Desdemeana apparently does not know this. The referee gets up and tells her, hey, this is just a 2 count. Then she begins arguing with the ref. No, I got the 3. What are you talking about? This is a 3 count. I won. And Jade comes up behind her, rolls her up. The referee shoots across and gets the 3 count on Desdemeana. And Jade has finally won her first match in WoW history. And we're talking a over 10-year span, and she's finally won the match. Of course, a good lump of that 10 years was all inactivity, but that's neither here nor there. So that became the end story. That was the build-up, is that she hadn't won, and she was doing this for her grandmother, and she was coming back for the first time. And now it becomes the end story because David McLean comes from behind the commentating booth, comes into the ring as Desdemeana. Well, we never even see her go off because they show recaps of the video. And I'm almost convinced that there was an attack after the match, but I can't prove that because they clipped away from it. So David McLean comes into the ring, and then they start talking about, you were one of the WoW originals. You came back, and your grandmother left you a note, and what did it say? And she goes off in that, which I've gotten to a little bit earlier in this review. And he shows the crowd this Jade piece, some just average jewelry. Of course, they're passing it off as this is passed down through the generations in her family, and it gives her the power that she needs and the inspiration so she can win. The match was as entertaining. It was probably an average match. I would say a nice C plus. And when I say that, I don't mean that as a demeaning thing to the match, but again, the match is about 7 minutes long between two people who don't have a huge amount of experience in that. And considering that they kept it very basic, I thought it was fine. I thought the match in and of itself is fine. There was nothing outstanding in it, so I call it for an average rating, or a little bit above average, which is why I say C plus. Certainly, you could watch it and maybe enjoy it. Now, I will say that it is slow at times, but not nearly as slow as that Santana Garrett and Tadevik the Gamer match. That thing was like horrendously slow. It wasn't bad, it's just slow. But this one moved a little bit better, which was surprising. I thought that, if anything, I was walking into this expecting it to be bad. That's horrible for me to say, but I went into this match expecting the worst out of it. And, to put that in context, and this is my fault, I tried watching it originally at like 1:30 in the morning, and I fell asleep on it. So when I went back to it, I didn't even take into account that it was late, and of course I probably was tired already. But I just immediately imagined myself like, oh, this must be horribly boring. I fell out, but no, it wasn't really that bad. It was just me. So if you can catch it, go ahead and catch it. Just jump on WoW and give it a quick viewing. I'm sure WoW would appreciate you for doing it. The one criticism that I have for the WoW video product It's the same criticism I've had from the get-go, and it's not anything that they can really do about it or that they could have done about it at the time. That audience is just terrible. It constitutes the WoW editors having to use sound sweetener all the time, and it's so obviously using sound sweetener. The piped in boos, the piped in cheers. I mean, it's like when Jade does something, they immediately hit the cheer button. When Desdemeana does something, they immediately hit boo. It is like clockwork. It's like they, holding up the applause sign. And it sounds very canned. It sounds very produced. That audience does nothing to help the product, and you can't really control that. It's not like you can, you got a studio audience in there or a group of people that you're paying to watch the show. They paid to see it. So, well, in most cases, we'll say in most wrestling events, they pay to see that so they can cheer and boo what they want. Of course, these tapings took place in Las Vegas, so it's very likely that the majority of these people, not all, but the majority of these people just came in for something to do. It's a TV taping. Okay, let's sit down and watch it. Whereas some of those people there clearly are aware of WoW, and that you can see a couple of people clapping in the audience and giving a thumbs up and thumbs down and stuff like that. But when you're watching as the match is going on, there's a lot of people just sitting there, just looking and not really doing all that much. And even though they're doing that, you're hearing cheers and boos and all that stuff going on. And, although the audience does not visually do anything to match that. So in any case, yeah, it is a C+ effort, a C+ match. Worth watching. It is what it is. And before I close this out, I want to say this about Jade. The fact that she is still in the physical shape that she's in and doing what she's done, having taken a over 10-year layoff. It's not as if she did anything. She didn't do any suicide dives or anything like that. But I mean, it is still pro wrestling. It is still her doing her karanas and head scissors and taking bumps and stuff like that. So regardless of whether I think that she had a stellar match, like, it doesn't compare to what's on the indies, regardless of that, she deserves credit in and of herself just being in that ring. That is, my hat's off to her. If I had to grade her individually, I would give her an A just on that. Just the fact that she got back in the ring. It's not proper form to go guessing a woman's age and stuff like that. But if I had to guess, I'm assuming that she probably started WoW when she was in her late teens, early 20s. She is probably in her mid to late 30s at best at this point. At a point, and that's not to say physically you're unable to do it. There's plenty of people out there that's in the mid to late 30s that are still kicking butt in the ring today. But most of them have done it consistently. Most of them have kept wrestling. Most of them have just, kept going. Let's use a guy like Samoa Joe, who's in his late 30s, but he hasn't never stopped wrestling, so he has a rhythm about it. He has an instinct about it. Jade doesn't have that. She stepped away, and now she's come back, and now she's getting back into it and all that, or got back into it briefly. So, I am impressed just on that regard, and, and I will certainly say that again about Erica Porter. I definitely was impressed about her. She's in amazing shape. Jade, amazing shape. A lot of those girls that came back to do what they're doing, great condition, great shape, and that they are able to keep up is impressive. Haven't seen the best of Lana Star yet. Like I said in the original review, that match was way too short, and it was too much of a squash to really get a gauge of what she can do in the ring. But I estimate when it gets up to her championship defense with Hudson Envy, known in the Wild Universe as Spike, it will be a different story. That match definitely will be longer than the minute and a half that she took on Sunshine. So that's it, folks. I appreciate you tuning in for this next review of the WoW Season 2 series. And make sure that you come back for future reviews. We'll be checking them on week by week. All right, folks, that's going to do it. And make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't done it. Go like our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter. We're getting back into doing that. And we will see you guys next week. And make sure you check into our matches, free matches right here. A lot of good stuff. Kiera Hogan versus Tiffany Rocks, which is a solid match. Kiera Hogan versus Marty Bell, also solid. So if you're looking for other wrestling to get into with a longer pace, with a little bit more stuff going on in it, all due respect to our WOW colleagues, make sure you go through the WPN or Women's Pro Wrestling Network videos. That's it, folks. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.